Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lions on the Prowl. And today, what's on the menu? 5 potential candidates to replace Bob Quinn. Should the Lions fire him? Should the Lions sign Le'Veon Bell? What do we think? Who's at the table today? Talk with Jeremy Reisman. Lunchtime Detroit Lions talk starts now. So I'm going to bring in my co-host, Kurt Steele.
What up, though? You know how we do it. Good morning, Jim. How you doing?
Very well. Very well.
Hey, so first thing first, folks, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the notification bell so you know when you're getting fresh content from us right here. Like the video and then comment. Give us some comments. Give us some feedback so you know. So we're going to respond to you for the question of the day tomorrow show. So thank you. And the show starts right now. Hey, welcome back to the show. The question of today is, who do you think should replace Bob Quinn if, in fact, he is fired? So that's the question of the day. Please leave some comments on this video, and we'll get you your responses tomorrow. What you got, Jim?
Well, I got responses from yesterday. This was very interesting because what we brought up yesterday is that the Detroit Lions were ranked number 18 overall in defense. But there may be a reason for that. And so you can call me Funk says they had to come to that conclusion by total yards allowed. The Lions, like 3 other teams, have already had a bye week. So the bye week, the other teams had played and given up more yards. That's what he's trying to say. So 28-ish teams have played an entire game more. By week 10, it will balance back out. So maybe that's why we were rated so high, because we were on the bye week and everybody else was giving up more yards and stuff like that. So that makes perfect sense.
I got you.
So thank you. You can call me Funk. That was a very good take. All right. And the Dern says, my question will they fire Quinn if they lose to Jacksonville? My answer is no. I don't think they will. I don't think they're making any moves till after the season now. John Kapler, we were talking about this yesterday when he said about the offensive line. We thought it was New Orleans. We thought it was Jacksonville. He said, no, I meant Dallas. Sorry for the mix-up. Someone said Dallas would be better for Stafford with a better O-line and Zeke running the ball if traded. So that's what he said, and then he said, thanks for the mention. So, yeah, that makes sense. They do have a better O-line, and they do have Zeke Elliott, and so that might be a better destination for Stafford if we do that, which I hope we don't. I hope we don't right now. I don't think it's going to happen anymore, but we'll see.
I hope not. And in the way that Stafford was talking yesterday in his press conference, I don't think it's going to happen. So,
yeah, I don't either.
Yeah. So let's get into the injury report. As my man Jim calls it, the pain train. So looking at the injury report we got for the Lions coming into the Jacksonville game. Yesterday, we had no practice for Desmond Trufant with a hamstring. Also, no practice for Hunter Bryant with a concussion, which is kind of difficult because he hasn't had that before. He was coming off a bye week. So how do you get a concussion on the bye week? I don't know. Frank Ragnow is the biggest name right now on this list with a groin with limited practice. That's a tough one if the Lions will lose one of the top ranked centers in the league. Christian Jones is with a knee. He can have a seat. CJ Moore with a calf injury with limited in the practice as well. And Deshaun Hand and Nick Williams with a chest and shoulder respectively. Also on the injury report, but they practice in full. So that's the pain train for Wednesday versus the Jaguars.
And for the Jaguars, they have a couple of people's out. Their top receivers, DJ Chark and Chenault, both. You remember you were talking about him.
Chenault is a beast. That guy, he can play.
Did not practice on Wednesday.
Well, I mean, we'll see. I will definitely take that if they miss the game. I'm not wishing that, but I'll take it.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
Same thing happened with New Orleans, and look what happened there. But anyway, Joe Dahl, Bo Scarborough, Mike Ford returned to practice today, but they remain on the IR, so that's interesting to me. Edge Austin Bryant is eligible to return in Week 7. Don't know what he's going to bring to the team because I think he's only played one game for us.
Yeah, I mean, and they just keep hanging around with this guy. It's been a couple years. I just think it's time to release him with an injury settlement and keep it moving.
Yeah, me too. Okay, let's go into the main course.
Now, the topic at hand is, should the Lions sign free agent running back Le'Veon Bell, who was recently released by the New York Jets? Jim, you up first. Should the Lions sign Mr. Bell?
Well, I'm going to go to a game that you like to play. No, I don't know. We won't do that. But I'm going to say no. I'm going to say absolutely not. Here's the reason. We just signed Adrian Peterson, right? And we have too many running backs. Bo Scarborough's coming back from IR pretty soon. We also have Kerryon Johnson for whatever that's worth. And we have and DeAndre Swift, who really should be running the ball instead of just being a Theo Riddick type. So, no, there's no room on the roster for him. I also think he creates some locker room issues that we really don't need right now.
Yeah, I'm not a really big seller on the locker room thing. I don't know who he is personally, but the drama, I understand, but we don't have a need for him. I mean, the running back room is crowded enough as it is, and people are clamoring for touches. So you just add another piece of that. I don't see any really plus for the Lions for that. I know a lot of fans are, we just on Le'Veon. No, I just don't see it. So Le'Veon, that's a pass for me. So not so much.
Right. Now we're going to move on to the next point. And that is 5 people that could replace Bob Quinn.
Right. So looking at the first candidate, we have the assistant GM in Cleveland, Elliott Wolf, son of Hall of Famer and former Packers GM Ron Wolf, who turned the Green Bay Packers around. So this is the first guy up. Looking at that roster turnover in Cleveland, man, they have some ballers over there, and they're playing pretty good. So he's if he was instrumental in turning that roster over, that's a pretty good candidate.
He's an assistant GM, so that means he's not the actual GM over there. But if you look at his dad, and you look at the bold trades that Cleveland's made, the bold moves that they've made, the draft picks that they've made, I actually think that they have done better than the Lions. I think the Lions go for B and C players where they're going all out, guns loaded, and trying to get better, where the Lions are trying to stay mediocre. I think he's the number one guy on my list. I think that he's one of the hottest candidates going to be coming out. That's just my opinion. Second guy we have is Indianapolis Colts assistant GM Ed Dodds. They say he's going to be the hottest commodity during the GM searches for the 2021 season. Chris Ballard is the current Colts GM, brought Dodds over from Seattle, where he was vital in Seattle's championship runs. Dodds is responsible for drafting Russell Wilson and piecing together the Legion of Boom. I got a little pushback on that, though, because Darrell Bevell actually was really instrumental in Russell Wilson and signing and drafting him as well, because he was the one that went out and scouted him and found him and brought him to his attention. So I just have to have a little pushback there.
I like that, though. I mean, Russell Wilson's one of the best. He's the lead MVP candidate in the league right now. So that's good scouting, I believe. So I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is ESPN analyst Louis Riddick. All right, quick. Let us play a little game. Which one is not like the other? Louis Riddick is a lead analyst at ESPN, but has just as much experience as a potential candidate this year. He played in the league from 91 to 98. But as an executive and has more experience in the front office. So Riddick was with the Redskins from 2001 to 2007, where he started as a pro scout before being promoted to director of player personnel. Following that stint, Riddick worked for the Eagles as a pro scout in 2008 until being promoted to assistant director of personnel in 2009. He finished his time in Philadelphia as a director of pro personnel from 2010 to 2013. Now, this is one of my guys I like. I like Louis Riddick. I think he, as an analyst, he's in touch with some of the players. So, I mean, he has a good relationship with some of the younger players. I know he's been away from the game for a few years, but he still kind of keeps himself relevant being an analyst over at ESPN. And some people say, well, he's an analyst and, that hasn't worked out with Matt Millen. But, Matt Millen's Matt Millen. You can't judge every potential GM that has worked as an analyst. Look at Mike Mayock out there in Las Vegas. So I like Louis Riddick. I think he's a great talent evaluator, and being a director of player personnel is key. So he knows how to run some of that GM type of things in an organization. So Louis Riddick is one of my top guys.
He's not for me because the time he's been not evaluating talent, the time that he's been away from the game, that bothers me. And the analyst thing does bother me. The Matt Millen thing, we remember how bad that was. And I know you can't be guilty by association, but I'm a little skeptical of that because he is in ESPN, but I don't know how much he's in directly scouting players and because that's an in-depth thing more than it is being an analyst. It's a little different. Yeah. So the next guy is Daniel Jeremiah, and it's got the same reasons for me with this one, but he's a former scout with 3 different NFL teams. Most recently, he was a West Coast scout for the Philadelphia Eagles from 2010 to 2012. Previously worked as a national scout with the Cleveland Browns from 2007 to 2008, and a West Coast scout for the Baltimore Ravens 2005 to 2006. After initially joining the team as a personnel assistant from 2003 to 2004. Jeremiah graduated in 2000 from Appalachian State, where he started at quarterback for 3 seasons. So he's actually played the game. Yeah. This is another guy that everybody thinks is going to be great as a GM, but I don't see the qualifications. He's never been a pro personnel scout. He's never been a pro personnel director. He's never been an assistant GM. He's never GM'd. So the name bothers me. It does. And I know it's pretty popular, but it's not one of my top people. Yeah,
I got you. I'm not really sold on him. He's been a scout and he knows how to evaluate talent, but there's a difference between being a scout evaluating talent and being a GM evaluating talent, if you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Like, evaluate one player or a group of players for on the road is different from evaluating the overall talent for your team needs. So I get what you're saying. Last guy is Mike Borngazi. He's the Kansas City Chiefs director of football operations. I've never really heard of this guy, so I can't.
In Kansas City, they have the Andy Reid coaching tree, but they also have a solid executive tree in recent seasons. Several successful general managers that got their start with the Chiefs or worked under other GMs in that front office. Currently, there are 3 recent Chiefs front office staffers in prominent roles across the NFL. John Dorsey with the Browns, Chris Ballard with the Colts, Brett Veach with the Chiefs still. And for the most part, these executives have built solid teams. So I think that he could be a candidate. He is a person that's already in a position, to me, because he's director of football operations. He's already in a higher position, whereas Daniel Jeremiah hasn't done that, that type of thing. I like the experience factor here. And I also like what the Chiefs have built with their team.
Yeah, they have a good roster. I like the way they built their team out there. Hey, now it is time for my man, Jim. He was in the kitchen, he was at the table with Jeremy Reisman, PrideOfDetroit.com. So check out Jim's interview with Jeremy Reisman of Pride of Detroit right now.
And now we have an interview with Jeremy Reisman. He is the head editor of Pride of Detroit website. Very good stuff over there, Jeremy. Thank you very much for joining me today.
No problem, Jim. Always a pleasure to be with you.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of different things that we don't want to talk about. As media people, it's like,
it's at that point of the season, I guess.
It is. I don't know. We're playing some teams that aren't really that good. We could come back and be okay, but we still probably are out by Thanksgiving. But anyway, just a thought. Yeah. All right. So we had this thing today that we posted about Sheila Ford Hamp, about her not being out there to address anything that's going on. Like, if we're going to keep the coach, obviously if there's a firing, she's going to come out, but nothing. Crickets. I don't know. weird on the bye week. We just wanted to hear something. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly surprised by it. I know Sheila Ford Hamp, when she was introduced to the media, said that she wants to be a little more transparent, wants to be a little more available to the media. So I can understand Lions fans maybe expecting some sort of either vote of confidence or, maybe even a stricter ultimatum for Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia. But I think that was always kind of a pipe dream. I think the Fords have already kind of set a precedent, and not that she's not a different person. She is a different person, and maybe we'll see more of her as this goes on. But at this point, I think she made her statement by not making a move during the bye week, and that's really all you need to know. And I know Lions fans are probably frustrated about that. They want to hear more from ownership. They want to hear that they're paying attention, that their frustrations are being heard, and that sort of thing. But owners aren't obligated to do that. Sometimes if you get an owner that's a little too hands-on, you get a guy like Jerry Jones who kind of makes an idiot of himself sometimes. So
true.
I can understand the frustration some Lions fans have from it, but I'm personally not that frustrated by it, and I'm certainly not surprised by it.
I think the fans are frustrated only because of Patricia being 9-25-1.
Sure.
I think that's probably why everybody's a little up in arms, because he just can't seem to win,
Yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, this next topic again, we have to bring it up, and it's just like, why? But anyway, we'll do it. Do you think we should trade Matthew Stafford?
No, not at the moment. I do think this becomes a legitimate conversation maybe after the season or maybe the season after that. But at this point, no. One, it's not going to happen, especially with Bob Quinn as the current general manager. He'd be essentially signing his own pink slip, as I've been putting it, because we saw what this team looks like without Matthew Stafford last year. They went 0-8. If they go, 0-11 in the final 11 or whatever it is, basically Bob Quinn, you have to imagine that's the end of him. And so there's no reason for him to do it. I know you look over in Dallas, you see Dak Prescott probably done for the year. And you start connecting dots, Matthew Stafford back in Dallas, all that sort of stuff. Sure. It's a fun thing to think about, especially for people who are fed up with the way Matthew Stafford's been playing. There are a lot of people that have been fed up with the way he's been playing for years. I'm not one of those people necessarily. Obviously he hasn't been playing particularly well this year, but his contract is still way too expensive for this team to move on. They might save some cap space this year, but they're still on the hook for, I think, around $24 million next year, compared to 35 or something with keeping him. So I don't know. Is Stafford worth the extra $11 million to keep him? I think that's probably true. Even if, the Lions hit the full reset button, there's a new GM and head coach here. Maybe you take kind of the Packers route and you still draft a quarterback, but you kind of keep him on the bench there while you have Matthew Stafford for 1 or 2 more years. That to me makes the most sense. I know fans are hoping maybe you get a first round, maybe you get a first and a second round out of Matthew Stafford, and maybe you can. And maybe that's a conversation that the new GM will have in 2021. But for now, there's really not any logical reason for them to do that, because even if they were to fire Bob Quinn, let's say next week, well, then who's your acting GM then? Is it Sheila Ford? Is it someone else? Whoever it's going to be, that interim GM, they're not going to have a lot of experience trading anyone. And so you can't really trust them to necessarily get the best value out of a huge trade like Matthew Stafford. So I say we put the conversation on hold for 2021, and then we readdress it then.
The only thing I have on that is, do we do it for him? Do we do it for the player that suffered for 12 years here and has won basically nothing?
Yeah.
That's my thing. I mean, are we a good enough organization to say, okay, we're going to let you go? And I realize that this probably won't be till next year, but I mean, I don't think his trade value is going to get any higher, as the years go up. So I don't know. That was just my thought on it.
Yeah.
I know the cap hit is terrible, but
it's an interesting situation, right? Like you want to do your players good, but at the same time, like your predominant job is to do well here. And so you don't necessarily owe anyone anything by sending them away. It's a nice gesture. And I think a lot of Lions fans feel similar. They're like, if the Lions are going to hit the reset button, why don't put Matthew Stafford through that? He's been through that 4 or 5 times in his career already. Right. Let's get an opportunity for that guy to get the attention and recognition that he's always deserved. And I get that sentiment, but it's not the Lions' job to do that. Their job is to win. And I think I think the best course of action for the franchise is to at least hold on to him throughout the rest of this season, maybe even for another year after that.
Sounds good. All right. So you have anyway, not me. I've gotten the injury report for Jacksonville. We got some interesting names on there, and that's the game coming up this weekend. So let us know what's going on.
Well, yeah, I think one of the kind of interesting things about this matchup is both teams are just awful on defense, and we could be up for a shootout. And the Jacksonville Jaguars don't have too bad of an offense. In fact, I think it's a pretty good offense, but Wednesday's injury report shows that they might be missing two key guys on their offense. DJ Chark left last game with, I think it's an ankle injury. He did not practice on Wednesday. And then Laviska Shenault, their rookie wide receiver, also missed Wednesday's practice with a hamstring injury. And
the dreaded hamstring injury.
Yeah, exactly. Lions know everything about those injuries. And so that could be a huge factor. Obviously, that they still have a really good running game. We've seen them run all over their opponents through 5 weeks now. But that passing game is obviously going to be severely limited if both those guys don't go. Obviously, it's still here early in the week. Those guys could potentially rebound, but definitely that is potential big news for those that are still interested in breaking down the matchup, because those are maybe the Jaguars' two best skill position players.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for joining me here in the kitchen today. I really appreciate you being here with me, and thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem, Jim. Thanks for having me.
And now on the menu, after we've had the main course and we've had the wonderful interview with Jeremy. Thank you, Jeremy, for doing that for me. I really appreciated it. Now we come to dessert, and that's usually a fun fact that we have just to close the show. So here we go. Matt Stafford has thrown a touchdown pass against every NFL team but one. Well, of course, he hasn't thrown one against the Lions. So let's make it two. The Jacksonville Jaguars.
Wow. Would never have thought that would happen.
Yep. We don't play Jacksonville all that often. I think that's what it is. Mm-hmm. But he has a chance to rectify that situation and throw a touchdown pass against 31 NFL teams coming up this weekend.
That's awesome. I hope he doesn't. Hey, thank you for watching our show right here on Detroit Lions on the Prowl. Do us a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Follow us over on Facebook. Give us some comments on the question of today. Hey, please drop them down, and we'll make sure we get to them in tomorrow's show. So whatever you do in life, please, you got to boss up, ball out, and be the best version of you that you can be. For my man Jim over here, this is Kurt Steele for Detroit Lions on the Prowl, and we will holler at you real soon.